announcement about some upcoming events we have. On February 4th, that's a Saturday, we're planning an art tour and lunch at the Girls Club in Fort Lauderdale. It'll be a private tour by artist and collector Francie Bishop Good, and then a lunch in her home that's nearby. Space is limited. It's $20 for Locust Projects members and artists, and $40 for non-members, and RSVP is required. We'll be sending out some information about that in the next few days. I want to remind everyone that April 28th is our Spring Fling fundraiser. That'll happen at 1111 Lincoln Road at the parking garage. We're really excited for that. It's our 10th year. And I'm really excited to be celebrating our second year of the Billboard Project. We launched it in November of 2011 with major support from the Knight Foundation. Agustina's proposal was selected from an open call to Miami-based artists, for which we received over 80 submissions. It's been a really exciting adventure with you. It's working towards accomplishing this really major public project, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Agustina Woodgate and to our moderator, Dennis Scholl. Agustina was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1981 and graduated from the National College of Art there in 2004. She currently lives in Miami and is represented by Spinello Projects here. In 2011, the artist had solo projects at Elsewhere Collaborative in Greensboro, North Carolina, and at Spinello Projects. And in 2010, she showed at the Miami-Dade Public Library, El Dorado Towers, and Dimensions Variable. Her practice has included street performances in Miami and San Juan, Puerto Rico. Woodgate has been included in group exhibitions at galleries in London and New Orleans, as well as the Naples Museum of Art, Miami Art Museum, North Carolina Museum, and MoCA. Honors and awards include the National Association of Latino Arts and Culture, the Art Matters Grant, and the Joan Mitchell Foundation Grant. She's currently working on Culture Park, a project in an abandoned amusement park in conjunction with the 2012 Biennial in Berlin, and she's recently been commissioned by Art and Public Places Committee of Miami Beach for a permanent memorial bench on Lincoln Road. And Dennis, our moderator.
They know who I am.
Yeah, you want to hear any we all know Dennis has been collecting contemporary art for over 30 years and been involved with museums that include the Guggenheim, the Tate Modern, and acquisition committees at the Miami Art Museum, and has really helped these groups raise funds for acquiring contemporary art for their museums. So thank you very much.
So what we're going to do tonight, even better. What we're going to do tonight is, we're not going to do a slideshow because, I don't know, it just reminds me too much of school and it kind of freaks me out. So we're going to do wallpaper. This is a series of slides that Agustina has brought to the talk tonight, and we're just going to run them consecutively a number of times while we're talking. And the talk isn't necessarily going to relate to the slides, but sometimes you might turn around and go, oh, that one. Or that one. Is that the eyelash we're talking about? Cool. So we want you to kind of get a feel for the practice without having it be kind of taught to you. And I think that that'll be very helpful for everybody, and I think it'll be a way of getting the full body of the work and still talking about things very, very specifically. And I've kind of been waiting for this talk because it was about a year ago, I guess, maybe a little bit less, when I found out that this artist had snuck into thrift stores, and she had brought, my timing is so good, that's amazing. I won't be able to do that all night, I promise. And she had brought poems that she and other people had written, and she had begun to sew them in to, maybe I will get this, that's awesome. She had begun to sew them into thrift store clothing. And, you know, the Miami art practice is so conceptual usually. We're all for some reason here in particular. And that just felt to me like a stroke of genius. It was done during Old Miami, the big poetry festival that we all put together in Miami. And I couldn't think of a better way for a visual artist to participate. And I think sometimes it's a struggle for visual artists to participate in a performing arts like that. So I was super excited about that. But let's start at the beginning. Venezuela.
Argentina.
Argentina.
Buenos Aires.
Okay. Girls' school.
Yes.
Uniforms.
Uniforms.
Those socks, the whole thing.
Whole thing, all the way to the knee.
And for how long?
All my life, the same school until I was 17, and then studied 1 year of graphic design and moved into visual arts, which was what I wanted to do all my life. I just got a little bit scared.
And when you went to, because you went to school there to study,
yeah.
and what was that like compared to when you came over here afterwards and began to see how people learned here? I mean, how they were educated here in terms of the visual arts in particular.
In terms of the visual arts, it's quite interesting because the facilities are not the strength in Argentina, especially in a school that's visual arts public. It's quite political. Actually, when I started it, in my first year of university, the school had been relocated to a really outside of the city location, sort of like on purpose. That was the whole thing. It was before the university was in the middle of the city. Now it was relocated to an outside town. So it's a social experience, definitely. Arriving to school and maybe shut down because there's some sort of stroke, and being part of those things will bring a particular dialogue to the classroom, and learning about our history, or I don't know. We had also a subject was called culture. It was like through the 6 years of school. It's also a lot longer and a lot more demanding in an economy that really needs you to work. So it's sort of like a struggle.
So who becomes an artist then? Is it similar here where most people that I know that are artists, and there are many in the audience today, they make art because they have to. It's not really about selling art or saying I'm an artist. People literally make art because in their soul they have to make art.
Yeah, the difference is that we were educated in school. All our teachers will tell us galleries are the devil. First of all, you are put in a place where the commercial is not your friend. So that derives your work and your practice in a totally different way.
Does it make you braver?
It's good and it's bad. It has both things, because now I am at a point where I'm negotiating and I am actually like understanding that it's good and I need it, and there's certain things that, right? But when you are producing and when you're experimenting, it's kind of nice because it brings you a freedom where the market is never an opportunity. And it's never even where you want to be, regardless, so who cares? You're doing it because you love to, not because you're pursuing money or a career. On top of that, the social situation and the economic situation is that people really don't go around shopping for art. So even if you're doing something pretty, no one is going to buy it, so who cares? Do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. So that was an awesome experience in that sense.
And then when did you come here?
2004.
And what brought you here?
My husband.
It's a good reason.
Yeah, great. Love, why not? But yeah, I was kind of disappointed, to be honest with you, because I was...
In love or...
No, in the city.
Okay, just making sure.
I was like, out of the entire world, I'm really going to end up... I was just finished school and I was ready to move somewhere else, maybe even study somewhere else or something, but Miami didn't seem an attraction at all to me. And little did I know what was happening here, actually. Surprisingly, I've been here for 7 years, and I like it very much.
And you know, I've been involved in what happens down here for a long time, and but I don't know it from an artist's point of view. When you got here, did you come here expecting to, quote, be an artist, to make work? Was that what you expected to do when you came here?
Well, you also need to remember that I came here immediately. The semester ends in November, and in December I was here. So I didn't even know what to be an artist meant. I never showed in my life before. Like, yeah, sure, school shows, but, you know, like, not in a professional and in that way. So it was also a discovery of what the profession entails, or what is expected, what do I expect, where to even look at it. I had no idea. You know, like, sure, I was studying, but it's different also the scene that you are in. And in here, I find that the student scene, the students are very involved in the art scene. Buenos Aires is a huge city. It's huge. So there's thousands of scenes, and the students have their own scene. They're not, you know, so it was kind of foreign. I didn't even know where the galleries were, who were the artists, nothing.
So when did you make your first, I always like to ask, I'll use the word commercial, but it's not what I mean. The first piece of art that you said to yourself, you know, I am an artist now, this is what I do. Tell me about that a little bit.
I still get surprised on that billboard. I drive by that billboard, I was like, I did that? You know? Like, so it's kind of hard to see what is the first one. Also, because my work seems to be like a one line, like one thing ends being the other and being the beginning of the following one. And so what was my first piece ended up being a 4-year process of cutting hair in the streets, and that ended up like me thinking about offering a service and getting involved in the gift economy and what does that mean. So I don't even know if I'm done with my first piece.
That's okay. Yeah. And so can you talk about that, though? Can you talk about that piece a little bit? Is it a piece that you're proud of, that you want to talk about?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, like, I'm kind of, like, still working on my first piece ever. Like, as if the paper was my first piece. But the one piece that I did that was in school, and it was extremely instinctive, but it had an impact on the rest of my work, was a piece that I did collecting the hair that I lost for 1 year. So I had a jar in my bath, and every time that I finished washing my hair, I would put the hair. It started just by the act of collecting without knowing what I was going to do with it. I ended up experimenting with it and sewing paper. I had these like monoprints done with my face, shaped. So I intervened with my own hair. I changed the idea of like changing my own identity with myself. So I had like this mustache. Beard. It's interesting because it has like it's kind of humor involved in there. But the fact that I was already doing something that had so much process involved, and the idea of collecting and the reusing something and resignifying something and displacing something, that those are notions that now I go behind them. At that moment I was just, I don't know.
Well, quickly, because when we were talking the other day about this, the teddy bear piece was important to me when I began to think about it. So as you make the leap from something like collecting your own hair and working with it, and so tell people a little bit about the teddy bear piece and what you did and how it came about and how it ties to that piece of the practice.
His name is Pepe. That's the most important thing that you should know.
No, the most important thing I think is he didn't get volunteered for the work.
No. He's a big part of it. He's the observer. Pepe is hanging there in my studio. So I got Pepe when I was 1. For whatever reason, and I don't even know how, he ended up in Miami. He ended up in one of my visits to Buenos Aires. I was like, I'm going to take him with me because sometime you're going to come around handy. And I went on to a residency and I took him. I wanted it to work with him, actually. I wanted it to work with him. But I wasn't going to disassemble. Like, my first step is always, okay, how are you made? How are you done? Like, whenever I approach a material, my first, like, the first thing that I do is, what is it made out of? How is it made out? Where is it come from? So, and stitching him and seeing his parts was the first step. I wasn't going to do that with him, just in case. So I went ahead and bought a few in a thrift store. I disassembled them, started playing with the pieces, realized that there was I was playing with a huge puzzle. That was one of them. And then they actually fit together. So I decided not to cut the shapes. That's why you see those strange shapes. Just to keep the idea of the bear present. And the idea then from there, understanding that this was dealing with skins and with bear skins and transforming it into a rug, then it became to really make sense in a bigger picture. I mean, a more global way, I like to say, because it did start from my own relationship with my own object, but ultimately I started to think that I wasn't the only one that I had this object, and I found so many people, and I'm sure everyone here has memories of their first teddy bear, of their first stuffed animal.
How about you, Paul? Do you remember your first?
Some people even have it. So that, and then the idea that it goes cross borders, in every country, the idea of the stuffed animal, the object, the archetype, and then of course the fact that I don't like animal skin rugs, and looking at a solution on how to keep them in the market in a different way, because these are animal skin rugs anyways, and they're as alive as real animals are. You know, the fact that we make objects alive by the relationship we have with them.
And how early in your practice did that particular idea and that object come about?
I carried Pepe for a while. I just didn't know what I was going to do. This first attempt to create a rug was in 2008. I did the first one, and I was like, yeah, this works. But I had all these leftovers. And these were all used, and it was very important for me that they were used, that they carried the memory, the history. So I had all these leftovers, and it was totally against my rules to throw them away. So I said, okay, I'm going to do another one to use the leftovers. And from there, the idea of creating an entire collection with sizes, designs, colors, it just only made sense.
But it also wasn't up to you in a way, because people started sending you bears.
Which was also the thing of like, well, clearly I am feeling a gap, some sort of gap, at the door of my studio. Once I found this giant horse someone picked up. I don't know, people were really going out of their way to bring me the material. The cool thing is that mothers were sort of excited. It's like, thank God, I don't have to throw it away. It's like a great excuse to not throw it away. You're not going to sell them or give them to a thrift store. It's too meaningful for that. You know, so it was a nice collaboration.
Yeah. And then thinking about the poetry piece for a minute, because I think that that's something, like I said, that's what put it on my radar. You know, we know a lot of the working artists in the community, but there's always something that makes me pay attention, and that certainly was it for me. Talk a little bit about how you really drifted into that project, just trying to help with the poetry festival.
Yeah, I was telling you that last time that somehow along the way I received an email or I read an article or something about Miami Poetry Festival coming up soon, and this guy, Scott Cunningham, organizing him. I had never heard his name before, so logged into the website, I found Miami through the Wynwood University actually. So I sent him an email saying, hi Scott, I also live in Miami, really casual. I like what you're doing, can we get a coffee? And he's like, yeah, sure, let's meet up. So we meet up in a coffee shop. I'm trying to guess who Scott is, because I really honestly did not know. So we get together coffee. In the meantime, we start talking about what are you doing? Well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I was really attracted by the ambitious endeavor. He said to me, well, the idea is to reach every citizen in the Dade County with a poem. Yeah, I want to help.
Well, I figured once we got a poem in Michael's, we get to about hack the community that way. That's part of the strategy.
the fact that he was going massive and then he was also bringing it straight to the community, Dade County. It wasn't about, and I find myself poetry to be quite far away. I read, I am a nerd, I have 7 books that I read at the same time, never poetry. Literature is one of my big inspirations, poetry is never. So the fact that someone was trying to make poetry accessible was something that really caught my attention. And so I said to him, well, maybe I could come to your office, I'll help you out, anything you need. If you need me to spread the word, just let me know. I want to be part of this. And he's like, great, do work. I want you in it. I was like, oh, but I don't know how to write. Well, who cares? You're a poet anyways. So that was really nice.
So where did your poems come from?
Actually, it was a collaboration from him and Peter, who's his collaborator. I had the idea. The idea actually came because I was already collecting all the labels of the teddy bears. I have jars of all the labels. I have jars of all the eyes.
I think they need pictures of your studio.
Much more interesting than this.
That's a little creepy, yeah.
So I had all these labels. I wanted to do something. I was showing to Scott this incredible collection of labels, and then I said, oh, maybe this can happen. And from there, just like finding the poems that will fit in a label.
So tell people what it was like. So you walk into a thrift store.
Well, there's a little preparation before. I really fast. So I thread a bunch of needles and sort of like already pinch them in my clothes with the thread. And so I go in there and keep it casual. Keep it really casual, as if you're looking the clothes.
Sounds like a cat burglar to me.
Nothing, something who can't.
Keep it casual. Okay.
It's really. Can you really imagine someone sewing in someone's clothes? That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for someone stealing, or so I'm just spending a little bit more of time with these pants over here. It's okay, but I did got kicked out a bunch of times. And actually, the reason why
so you weren't very good at the.
No, this is what I was saying. The reason why I did was because the neighbors that were looking through clothes. Oh, what are you doing? And so this crowd behind me, and
so everybody would get you busted.
Right, so that's how it was. The second time I got busted was with the Miami Herald people. They're like, can we come and document you? And I was like, sure. This was the first people that were coming over, and they bring cameras and all this equipment, like put on a
casual
show.
Yeah.
So that just lasted a second, and then the New Times guy totally got it. He's like, no, I'm getting inside the rack. So he was like with his camera inside the rack. So that was kind of funny.
So you just come off of a project that I've been seeing as I drive back and forth on I-195. I can never figure out which one it is. I-195. And also the bus stops. You had the billboard and the bus stops. And tell us first, what's it like to do something of that scale and to feel it kind of everywhere all the time?
It is the artwork that feels the most outside of me. As an artist, I was surprised too. And most of the times you are working in a rug for an entire year. When you're done and you see behind, I don't care anymore. I am past that, 1 million artworks. In this one, it was a surprise for me as well, just like anyone else in the city. It's a challenge. It was a huge challenge. It was like going to school again. The amount of things to consider when working in the public space, and the amount of negotiations involved also.
Yeah, it's like a Christo project where you have to have public hearings and talk to everybody and get approvals and things like that.
Now it's not anymore me making a decision in my studio of what I want to do and how I want to show.
Or being subversive in the thrift stores. Yeah.
There was, of course, safety issues, different things that needed to be.
Were you nervous about that? I know Shauna was. I'm just asking you.
I was freaking out.
Yeah.
Shauna was more confident than what I was.
That's bad, Shauna. That's not good.
And when Shauna was the risky one here, I was like, Shauna, let's just print a rainbow. This is just going to kill the people. She's like, we're going for it. It's fine. We're going to find a solution. Don't worry. But it was a challenge. And again, the whole idea of like talking to the company, there's 3 different companies. The bus shelter company, the 2 different billboards belong to 2 different companies, the Locust Projects, then myself, then the city. It's so many voices, and it's also, as an artist, it's very interesting how straightforward you have to be with what your original idea was, because all these other issues that come across can easily...
It will morph it into something else very quickly. Yeah.
Because you just want, as an artist, I wanted it to make it work, and I wanted it to happen. So at some point that your integrity, you have to be careful to remember what were you doing. Maybe even backing up of the project, if it's not possible, I don't know how it works. This one hopefully happened, like the great things that happened, but...
Yeah. As I look around the room and I see these giant ditches, and I think about people, running off the road because of the billboard. Shauna, you become a central theme in this, kind of living dangerously, vicariously through the artist. I'm a little afraid about that, actually. So, tell me about though when when it was actually done and you got out to see particularly the giant billboard. That thing's insane at night when the lights are hitting it. What was the feeling like for you inside? Yeah, there you go.
As I told you, it was someone else did it. It was really nice. I was very happy to be surprised too.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the billboard is, and the bus shelters are where I totally site and time specific, and the big fear that I had was that, is it even going to reflect colors? The bus shelters, I was positive that they were going to work, but the billboard has a series of combinations of films to make it safe to work out with all these amounts of situations that are happening. So it's not only the material that shows the colors, but it has a set of films on the front that were actually fading the colors for a 70%. So I really didn't even know what was going to happen. On top of that, the samples that we were seeing were 2 by 2. The billboard is 50 by 10.
Right.
So nothing that we were seeing was even going to be closer to the reality.
Right.
So
now you just came off another pretty large-scale project during Art Basel. You worked on a project. Why don't you? I don't know how many people saw the project because the space is pretty new, and you guys were the first ones to have a whack at turning it into an art space. Those of you who came to the Smash and Grab, I think, saw one of the globes.
great timing.
But this is a project, you should talk about it a little bit. Tell people where it was, what you did, and what the result was.
That is in 42nd Street and Northeast 2nd. There is what used to be a kindergarten school. Now is gone, empty. For the last 3 months, Spinello relocated like a nomad project, and I was working on the globe. I just ended up sanding the globe. That was the piece that I was just finished.
So let's start with that. So you found a globe, you bought a globe, somebody gave you a globe.
Yeah. I was on the crazy search of a globe actually, and I walked into a friend of mine's studio, and I was like, where can I find a globe? Oh, I just picked up one from the garbage. Here, you can have it. Great. So I sanded the globe, loved it. I was like, yes, I want to sand it.
That makes it sound too easy. You sanded, and you sanded, and you sanded.
And I sanded it for quite a while.
Okay.
And I keep the dust, of course. I save all my trash.
Another central theme in tonight's discussion.
Sanded for quite a long time. Then the school comes about, and I was just done with the globe, and it seemed kind of funny because the idea of education it was not at all in my head at all. I think that Anthony didn't even know that he was going to get a school for his project at the moment. And the fact that the idea of putting a globe inside the classroom was not what I wanted at all. To me, it was directing the globe in a very specific way of looking at it, and that was not the intention. My intention was to be a little bit more political. So keeping it outside the classroom, but because that was where I was at the moment in my head, and kind of still am, I wanted it to react to the space in the same sort of fashion, but aware of the space, aware of its history, aware of what I was, and aware even in the fact of education in general. How are we educated? What our schools contain? Like, you know, sort of like a poetic way of...
So you had this 500 or 600 square foot space, about the same size as the billboard, I might add. And what'd you do with it?
So there's this classroom. I spent, I think, 2 weeks locked in that classroom, doing everything.
Anthony locked you in? He wouldn't
No, I locked myself in.
Oh.
But I
Dealers do that. So.
Relentless. I'm going to lift up I went through so many ideas and nothing was really coming out. I destroyed the place and built it again 1,000,000 times. Until one day we went scouting around and we found these incredible chalkboards inside a closet. So we brought them up. I was like, I want to do something with that. Brought them inside the classroom, and from there it was just like, just flowing. Because it sort of, I didn't even take any decision. The decisions were already done. They were there. What I did was, I sanded it, the 4 walls of the entire classroom, collected it, all the white dust, and placed it on the line of where the chalk goes. It looks like chalk. Has that trick. The walls are totally distressed, and if you look, you can see that something has been done to the classroom. But if you just swing by, you might think that I've shaved a lot of chalk for a lot of time. And I like that. I like that trick thing. The piece is called "If These Walls Could Talk."
So the dust beneath the chalkboard is not actually chalk dust. It's the dust.
It's the dust.
That from you sanding obsessively those walls for weeks.
Yeah. So the piece is called "If These Walls Could Talk," and basically, there's not much more to say. It's the lessons contained in a classroom, just in another shape other than chalk.
Now you're getting ready to leave town for a while.
In a week.
And where are you going? And what are you going to do?
Again to Berlin. I've been working for the last year and a half in a quite large endeavor of reopening a park that used to be the first amusement park in the Eastern Bloc in Berlin. The only one, actually. It was built in 1965. And the idea, it's been abandoned. It went through capitalist amusement park with tons of rides and sounds and colors and craziness to being abandoned for 10 years, and now it's a jungle, like where machines and vegetation are collaborating. Actually, it's beautiful. So it's gated. People are not allowed in, and the endeavor is to open the park and propose to Berlin a way of utilizing this place as a cultural park again. So the land will be treated with the utmost care and respect. It's about the park.
And we'll be collaborating with other people?
Absolutely, it's about collaboration. We are inviting Berlin-based and Berlin-born creatives, architects, musicians to submit visions on how would they envision and how would they want this park that belongs to their city open up again as a cultural park. And it's kind of like redefining the idea of amusement. Instead of amusement as entertainment, maybe through culture, so that brings workshops, utilizing the park as a platform other than just noise and this term.
Think you can make the Ferris wheel work?
How about the Ferris wheel as a wind wheel? Wouldn't it be awesome?
There you go. So when I think about your practice, I feel about this. I feel the sense of you feeling like you need to kind of be physical with the work. What is that about? Why do you think that is? And tell me about that a little
Sometimes
bit.
I even think it's like the process of producing my work is so performative. You should have seen us sanding that room for 2 weeks non-stop, as if it was a piece on its own. It's interesting. But that's when the next piece comes also. In the process of making one, I'm already...
Yeah. Well, you can feel that thread as you talk about them. You can feel that, yeah.
Totally building the next one. And the meditation of the process. I am into the process. I like the process. I believe in the process. I think that is the most important. It's where I find my solutions. Are in the process only. So, long process, intensive process. Maybe it has something to do with endurance. I'm thinking, right, it must have. Not necessarily I intend to. It's never.
If you knew at the end, or if you knew at the beginning what you knew at the end, you might not do some of these things.
And it's never the premise, like, okay, I'm going to think of something that's going to take me forever to make. Never.
Mm-hmm.
Never. And actually there are some pieces that are more of a detail, like the eyelash that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, I found an eyelash in my keyboard and I said, great, here you go, I give you a wish. There's nothing about me there, but everything at the same time. But the idea of really engaging with the material and understanding, again, how is it made of, what does it contain, it just feeds the concept ultimately.
Do you worry sometimes? Because I see artists that spend a lot of time, sweating it like that, both physically and mentally. And for them, that's a big part of the practice. But for the viewer, it's not really always evident. And do you worry about the viewer at all? Do you worry about somebody looking at the work and not feeling what you want them to feel because the work itself doesn't necessarily recognize all that?
But when I am doing these works, I don't want the viewer to think about how long it took me. I want the viewer to think about what they're seeing. So, for example, in the Globe, I don't know if people really know the amount of time that I spent sanding that. It's too hard also to sand a sphere. It's really hard because you never have a surface to put it down. So, but I don't really think that people get trapped on, oh, this girl must be sanding forever. Same thing with the hopscotch, for example. You know how long I break my back every time I paint that hopscotch. But I don't think that people really think about that. They're actually jumping it and they don't care about painting it. Like, oh great, there's a hopscotch down the street, let me jump it around. Play, that's the fact. So, no, I couldn't care less about people. If they know how much I took and they want to ask, no problem, I wouldn't hide it. But I'm not trying to make it evident on purpose. I think that it comes out regardless.
And when you think about going to school for art and looking at artists, are there artists that you look up to that you think are kind of iconic for your practice, things that you take away from certain artists? Are there people that you find compelling?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so many. It's infinite, and the website, this idea of the internet just drives me crazy. There's so much information. Sometimes I think, okay, I need to stop looking at other artists but yeah. I mean, back from school, I remember being super inspired by Louis Bourgeois, Joseph Beuys, Annette Messager, Mona Hatoum. Those were the line that I was really looking into. Today, Peter Coffey, I don't know, the list is infinite. My bookmarks are insane.
What about, you've had a long relationship with Anthony, your dealer, and that's, Miami people tend to migrate a little bit. What has that meant to you?
Collaboration, partnership. It's interesting because it's also where does the dealer start and the collaborator ends. It gets a little bit mixed up, but that's how I am also. And that's also how I make art in the first place. You know, there's very, very few, almost very little times where I am really thinking about an art piece as an object to be sold. The reason why I don't have a problem with the rugs is because they're rugs. And I made them into rugs and into functional objects to bring that conversation about the art piece and the prestige and all that. So the relationship that I have with Anthony has that speciality.
So it's like a rug to you.
I know, he needs to deal with my craziness all the time. Like, he wants a globe, I Santa Claus for this day. So, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Collaboration.
And I'm always intrigued about Miami and how it impacts people's practices. You've been here a while now, you said 7 or 8 years, and is Miami important to your practice? Is the city or the artist or what's happening here, does it impact your thought process?
Could it impact me more? Absolutely. Miami is a playground. I perceive it as a playground in many senses. Outdoor, indoors, I mean, Miami has been really, really nice to me and outside of the art world, saying just like as a city, it's a very welcoming city for someone that,
yeah. I
didn't come when I was a kid. I came when I was already a grown-up. And yeah, I went to a bilingual school, I knew the English, I studied English 7, 10, 13 years, every day for 5 hours. Yet I couldn't build a sentence, you know, and...
You're in the right place then.
Yeah, totally. And then the artist, and welcome, coming to my house, here's my studio, this is what I do, show me what you do. Again, this is my first experience, but also this is not my city. And feeling as if it was,
yeah.
It's really beautiful. I only have great things to say about my life. And the way that, I don't know, for some reason, you can have the biggest ambition here, and it's just a matter of really pushing and you will make it happen. It's a city that really is sort of like a radio for that.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I've lived here a long time, and it remains an open place. I think that's exactly right. In the art world, it happens to be a particularly generous place, and I'm not sure why, because it's not always a generous city otherwise, but in the art world, I would agree with you 100%. It's an incredibly generous place, and you know, we know a lot about communities in other cities, and we don't see that same level of generosity, you know, that we see here. And I also feel the same way. I feel very, very lucky in how informative it's been to me in my collective. You know, it's had a really big impact in my collective.
Very little sense of competition, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the reason why I got a studio in the first place is because other artists were helping me get a studio or get this or get that or that. I don't think that happens in New York, right? I mean,
I don't think so. No. Okay, listen, why don't we get some lights and we'll go to some questions from the audience. Excellent. Questions?
Agustina.
Jason, please.
So did you sand those walls by hand or?
Electric machine. Me with always 2 people at the same time, most of the times, with big headphones and really loud music.
What are you listening to?
All sorts of things. Imagine for 2 weeks I went from classical to punk rock, everything. It was a really nice moment. It was a really nice getting together with music. I hadn't had listened to full CDs in a while. But yeah, the ones that have the little vacuum, you know, like they collect the dust. So most of the dust was collected as being something.
Yes, hey Deb.
Hi. You mentioned the castle when you're there, one of your first pieces, and I was really totally sort of fascinated and repelled by it at the
I was grossed out by it, actually.
Yeah, it worked both ways. Even though you made it, it was amazing to think because it looked sort of like a child's castle when you got close and you realized it was all human. It was all human here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, then you were in the tension. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. And I wonder what happened to the castle.
Okay, so that castle it's an interesting story in my life, that castle. Have you guys seen, did you notice those, there's a few images there of me cutting hair in the streets?
Yes. Yeah.
That's how the castle came about. I was collecting the hair from the drain, and then I said, I might as well collect just hair. Why do I have to talk about myself all the time? So, no, but it's really like, who cares? I always go back to the question of who cares. It just seems to, I don't know, it complicates everything though. So I said, well, I'm going to go out, collect some hair. I went to a hairdresser. They wanted to charge me for it. Of course, they thought that I was going to make wigs or something. So I said, well, whatever. I'm just going to go out and cut it myself. That's how I built up that little mobile salon. And for 4 years, I just cut hair in the streets.
Excuse me, did you know how to cut hair?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's what I was
But
afraid of.
I trained myself for 4 years cutting hair in the streets. I cut my own hair. I'm really good at it. And
There you are.
and it didn't even matter. It was then it became
The guy's hair was getting
for 4 years. You're sitting down in a random corner to a girl that if I look young now, I looked like a baby there. And on top of that, you're in the streets and it's for free. Are you really going to expect a fancy hairdresser? You know, and it's like, so it was already. And so then started collecting it. And when I was collecting it, I realized that I was actually offering a service. And the interaction became really interesting. And how people were reacting when I was telling them that I was saving it for an artist that I had no idea what was going to be. Oh, so then you can cut as much as you want. And I was actually cutting as much as I want. And so that lasted a 4-year process of just collecting. I ended up with these huge bags. And
Of hair.
Of hair. And then I started doing these pieces that were related with fairy tales. Also with this idea of like, what are the stories that we all hear as humanity? The stories are always the same, they only change their title, but every country knows Rapunzel. So from something that will include us all, that was made out of a lot of different people, how can I treat you and make you think it's not hair, but it really is? And the fact that people were grossed out was very much part of something that, not that I was going behind, but I was very aware. And it was only fitting the concept, like that fact that you are being grossed out by something that it's your own body or is someone else's body. What's the relationship that we have with the body, with the self? What's the relationship we have when it's in us or when it's outside us? So all those things, and it has that trick moment, just like as the chalk. You think it's chalk. So many people walked out that space thinking that that was chalk. And it didn't really matter for them. It made sense. But I like tricking audiences.
Tricking.
Yeah. It's a little trick. It's a nice trick, though. It's not a mean
Oh,
trick.
yeah, it's not right. It's not cruel in any way.
It's the same way than the poems. You wouldn't think that there's someone going around sewing thousands of poems over. And last time I traveled to Berlin, I did them in German, so I also went into thrift stores in Germany and so.
So what you call tricky, I would call more subversive.
Subversive.
You know, trying to make something happen that people misinterpret, and yeah. But who else has a question?
So where is the castle?
Oh, my castle. It's in my studio.
Yeah?
It's in my studio. It takes so much space, I can't stand it. I was designing a box. Well, what happened with that castle was very interesting because I made it in New Mexico in a residency, so I shipped all the hair. And then I ended up with this huge structure, right? And the whole thing was that, how am I going to bring it back to Miami? So the residency was for a month. I took 2 full weeks to design it in a way that wouldn't use any screws nor glue and can fit in a box that I could ship super light, so it's a very nice engineering situation going behind all those drinks.
In addition to the amusement park, what do you have unrealized projects that you have aspirational goals that you'd like to talk about, or are there things out there that you'd love to get your hands on? And you've got enough teddy bears, we established that, but beyond that,
I guess that.
Are there materials you'd like to work with?
The materials just come. I have an entire studio of stuff. They have a line, they have a list, a waiting list. They will come around. They always do. Sometimes I get surprised that they take so long. Sometimes I get surprised how immediate they made it to the top of the list. Regarding places, someone asked me a while ago what's your dream location to work? There's not things as such a dream. I mean, I never expected to be opening it up at an amusement park. That's a dream already.
Mm-hmm.
So, any place, I am working on a few projects that are on the works, and they're gonna take a lot of negotiations. The bench in Lincoln Road is already been a 1-year negotiation, historic preservation department, all these interesting.
Well, talk about that project. Tell people what you're trying to do there.
So, Mr. Stanley Levine passed away last year, and his family, in memory to him, commissioned an artist to design a bench for Lincoln Road.
Stanley was one of the founders of the South Florida Arts Center, for those of you that don't remember.
Stanley was also the person who transformed Lincoln Road into a, pedestrians only. So it's extremely an honor for me to be memorizing such a personality in Miami. I respect his point of view a lot, and his ideas. So the family, the commission, and everyone else finally selected my design, which was really, I'm really not doing anything. I'm just working with what it is, with what it already exists there. There are white and black stripes all over Lincoln Road, right? And those black and white stripes are a commission of the city of Miami Beach to Maurice Lapidus,
right,
back when Lincoln Road was designed and built. So my proposal is a collaboration with Maurice Lapidus and with Mr. Levine. What I am doing is I am actually lifting up these stripes in different levels and making them become bench. So as Levine transformed the street into a sidewalk, I am transforming the sidewalk into a bench. And at the same time, I'm not bringing anything new. I'm just using Maurice Lapidus designs.
Do you find yourself drawn to that level of negotiation and difficulty? I mean, you've experienced it now a couple times pretty significantly.
I think I don't have an option.
You think to make the work you want to make, you think it requires you to go through that process in a way?
Yes. In every single, I get so frustrated with myself because why don't I make something that I like and that's it? I just get trapped in all these questions and no, why would I bring this external object that makes no sense in that location or why? So
that's very Boysian, though, as we said. It's very Motta Clark. I mean, those are the artists that come to mind for that.
So yeah, but there are so many things that are already present in these, or either objects or locations. So it's more about making visible the invisible, making visible the invisible, other than, oh, let me bring something new that doesn't belong and might feel like disturbing, That was what was happening in the bench. any structure to me felt just foreign, and it was a celebration for Lincoln Road. So it's bring it to, I guess my practice is very site specific and object specific, and I don't know, everything specific. You know, I don't like leaving loose ends just for the sake of beauty at all.
That's not important to you.
Not at all. If it comes through, well, that's great, but that's never the starting point.
On that note, I think we'll thank Agustina for coming and talking to us. Congratulations. Thanks everybody for coming. Appreciate it.